You see they are working out? That's all I say. You are Din, the adopted daughter of the king of hell, Enma, and as a handful of prisoners suddenly escape, you have to capture them, together with the help of 4 trusted sinners, all with their own burden to carry. For this purpose you need to live with them together on Earth to find out what the escaped prisoners are plotting and how to bring them back. And if that wasn't difficult enough, it turns out as soon as the sinners are out of Enma's reach, they defy Din, as they all hate women for their deceptiveness and weakness. Same as Din, who hates men, as in hell she only got to know the lowest of scumbags, and is one of the rare cases who forgot about her past life once she died and came to hell. So now a man-hater lives together with 4 men who are women-haters, and they somehow have to work together to capture the prisoners. But to effectively work together you have to trust each other, and even find out which regrets and attachments still bind them to Earth. You first have to play Kikyonosuke, Yona and Shadaku to unlock Jack and finally Goemon. I started with Shadaku, the frivolous flirt, who is in hell for his affairs and killing, and he really is an unprecedented flirt, who always is ironic and has a cleaning fetish. Accordingly, his route starts off pretty wild, and he continues to be pushy and flirty and quite outspoken. But acting gentle towards others, Lin cannot help but wonder how these hands could kill. And these two really struggle to get closer, as both of them seem to have severe trust issues. But they then decide to tackle them together, as Shadaku desperately needs to become stronger in order to fight one of the prisoners. Though I usually like flirts, I do have a problem with pushovers, especially when they are as outspoken as Shadaku, which kind of sucks the whole romance out of the situation for me, putting everything into words. But at the same time, that means you can relate to their love progression, as they also try to put all their feelings into words. I also think Shadaku has one of the most tragic backgrounds. And he's also one of the few routes where they really fight together, which is really nice to see. And his voice actor, who also voices Dante in Pure Fiore or Lucien in Even If Tempest, did a great job voicing this character in a very playful and funny way. Kikunosuke is the youngest of the sinners and was in hell for stealing. He loves gaming arcades and eats a lot, as he can also take the form of a wolf. As he finds out that his little sister is part of the escaped prisoners, he cannot believe it. Ayami used to be such a sweet child. Why did she even fall into hell and also support the escaped prisoner scheme? As Kikunosuke is the youngest and thus a bit childish in behavior and voice, voiced by the same actor as Eve in Shue no Geisha or Shungen in Bidoshana, I wasn't super excited for his route. But as expected, his ability to change into wolf form gave his route an interesting and actually also very surprising twist. And for me, his route also featured the most interesting side characters with the most interesting character development. And similar to Tokisada in Olympia Soirée, he looks cute but still has his manly side when it comes to the romance scenes. So in the end, the interesting story and his sweet character made me enjoy his route much more than I expected. As soon as I saw Yona in the promotional material, I was excited for him. He comes off as the most aggressive and hateful man who easily gets into fights and thus also was in hell for killing people. But you quickly realize how easily he gets flustered when treated nicely, and what a cute tsundere he is, calling the heroine Baka whenever he's overwhelmed by his own emotions. And his route was one of the most emotional for me. He has such a tough shell, but his heart is so soft that he can even cry over a good samurai movie. Yona is really such a lovely guy, strong and soft at the same time, with a warm heart and touching backstory. And I felt that their love progressed the most naturally, and their romance scenes also were one of the steamiest I've ever seen. Though this is probably because I liked Yona from the beginning, and so also his romance scenes had the biggest impact on me. So without a doubt, he earns my most sexy award. And also his voice actor shows such an immense range of emotions that I would gladly see him in more roles. He can sound angry, sweet, childish, or cry that it makes your heart break. After those three, you have to play Jack, the mysterious singer and broadcaster who has fans all over Japan. So you could technically say he is an enemy to lovers trope, but that leads to their relationship starting as a lie, which I don't really appreciate because it makes it hard for me to tell what is lie and what is true, and which signs of affection are genuine and which are not. And this is also the reason why their love progressed a bit slowly. That's why I think the best part of Jack's route is actually not Jack, but the funny banters with the characters, when he becomes part of their quirky group. So I would say though his route is a bit slow, it's still the most amusing and to a great deal carried by his voice actor, who also voiced Alan in Cupid Parasite, Kazuma in Lover Pretend, Cries in Even If Tempest, or Yodito mo in Biroshana. Then lastly, Goemon is unlocked, who from the very beginning of the game, literally in the first second, is obviously presented as the true root, for very obvious reasons. And this reason makes his root feel immensely sad. They have a very tragic backstory that becomes even more tragic the more you progress in his root, and is almost unbearably cruel in the final showdown. And that though Goemon would earn all the happiness in the world, as he is from the beginning the only one who doesn't bully her and tries to mediate between the MC and the other women haters. So his route is about revealing Lin's past she forgot about, as well as the true motives of the escaped prisoners and the main culprit. As a true route, it did indeed feel a bit more plot heavy, but most of the information was scattered throughout the route, all revealed in the final showdown, which really challenged my sanity. Here the game shows its true colors, and it's gonna bend your mind and heart with all the revelations. Which was kind of a shame regarding his route, was that in the common route as well as also in some character routes, he was practically rubbed in your face as being the true route and you should actually be dating him now. Though it was satisfying to finally romance him. His route felt so bittersweet due to all what he suffered through and their tragic past. I cried so hard my eyes hurt. And I felt down the whole evening. And now, just hearing his voice, who also voiced Adolf in Shu no Wish, makes me a bit teary-eyed, as he's such a gentle character and definitely deserves better. I like tragedy, but that was almost too much for me. Their true route was so tragic that I almost liked their bad ending better. Because the bad endings are nothing to be afraid of in this game, I think they can almost be treated as alternative endings, so they are not as messed up as in Olympia Soirée or Nil Admirari no Tenbin. The tone of the game is a bit difficult to describe. The game starts off fairly light-hearted and slice of lifey, having to live together with all these sinners, who hate you in the beginning but by the end of the common route, of course, are too tsundere to admit that they actually like you. And there are many scenes which will make you laugh out loud, be it their funny banters or the quirky side characters. But until everyone becomes like a family, like with their little quirks and caring about each other, you will have to withstand some bullying and really harsh words. On the other hand, the character routes are mainly about solving the LI's trauma, so mostly character driven, and the setup practically screams tragedy. And with each of the vastly different character routes, you uncover even darker secrets every time, until you reach the utmost tragedy in Goemon's route. Though the game is not graphically explicit for the most time, what is described or mentioned still can be awful. So it's definitely not for the faint heart. Still, I think this is one of the few games which succeeds in combining funny and tragic moments, without that either of them feel out of place. After a tragic scene about the LI's trauma, you could, for example, have a funny situation about Yona yet forgetting again to put on a t-shirt when he comes into the living room. Or like about what to have for breakfast. And somehow the game manages to transition between those scenes seamlessly, so you're also never overwhelmed by the tragic turns. It also manages to explain a lot about the mythological background. So much that your trusted cat Tama feels the urge to break the fourth wall in the common route to explain the whole world building to you. That means there's a lot of world building in the long common route. The common route took me as long as each character route, about 8 to 9 hours, but never did any of the routes feel long. You need the long common route for the whole setup of the story, which really is immensely interesting. They won't go into more details, but it is. And to introduce the side characters, at least shortly, as there are a lot of them, each with their own history, and it was such a pleasure to get to know them in the character routes. And I'm sure every single side character will have a fan club screaming for a route for them. I'm Team Enma.
Good morning, my sweet. 今日も美しく可愛らしいね。さすがはパパの娘だ。
While I thought Olympia Soirée had some pacing issues here and there, I didn't feel like that at all in Tengoku Struggle. There wasn't a single boring scene or a scene without a consequence for the plot or character development. Either plot happened or romantic development, again immediately followed by plot again. So there is of course this overarching plot about the scheme of the prisoners. The game is probably more character driven, having to deepen the bonds with the LIs and solving their trauma, so they are able to take on one of the prisoners each. That means their love development is the center of attention, as it also serves the purpose of progressing the plot. So first romance, then plot. And for almost all routes, I would say the romance development felt very well paced, relatable and genuine. As their task literally is to get closer and get to know each other, it's easy to relate why they fall in love. The heroine, though inexperienced and a former man-hater, also plays a huge role in this development, as she's exceptionally proactive and strong. And thirsty. Very thirsty. She often has thoughts like wanting to hug the Li, or not being able to avert her eyes from his beautiful face, or thinking about his touch. So this way you can easily witness how she falls in love. And similar to Nil Admirari no Tenbin or Olympia Soirée, the love scenes are many and they are steamy. Very steamy. Be it kissing sounds from the voice actors, or descriptions of where his hand is wandering. If you're a fan of steamy otome games, then you won't be disappointed. The game has a great mixture of cute and steamy scenes, not favoring one over the other, so when you then finally get to the steamy scenes, you feel like you have a well-established relationship and are ready for the next step. That said, in 2 of the routes, I still felt the romantic scenes were a bit rushed and didn't fit well into the flow of the story, but in the other 3 routes, the steamy scenes were a nice addition to a well-written and emotional love story. Satoi's art is unarguably one of the most beautiful. Especially the sprites are not from this world. How neat and detailed and stunning they are. And the cute speech bubbles as well as the mouth movement of the heroine give it an even more polished touch. The CGs draw you in, are in important scenes, in interesting perspectives, and are varied and dynamic. The only thing I missed was, considering we have a CG like this one, I would have liked to get more of this also in romantic scenes. Why give us this if we cannot see it in action? Am I really saying that? They mostly stick to wearing clothes in the romantic scenes, which is kind of a bummer, really. In general, I think the romantic scenes can look a bit static and not as hot as what is actually happening. Like in some kiss scenes, the lips don't meet, or even if there is literally a tongue involved, you don't see one. Okay, I see myself off to holiday. This show has to be interrupted due to technical issues. Kidding, I'm proud of my horniness. Like we all are who are interested in this game. The only aspect I'd criticize is the music. I know it's a modern setting, but nevertheless I would have wished for an orchestrated soundtrack. But it mostly sticks to technical and rocky or even punky music, which is just not to my personal liking. And I missed some more tragic and impactful tunes. So sadly I cannot really praise the music. I can't really recommend learning Japanese with this game, as it uses a lot of unusual kanji or uncommon words. I really struggled quite a bit and would only recommend it to advanced learners, or if you are willing to look up a lot of words but still don't understand everything, like me. But you can get at least a little impression also in my stream. But as the game is the most successful Switch launch of an automate game so far, I think the chances are quite high for it to be localized, so maybe you'll be able to play it in English one day. Being by the same team as Nil Admirari no Tenbin and Olympia Soirée, the expectations were high for Tengoku Struggle, but I think they met or even surpassed these expectations, taking the best out of 2 games and combining it in Tengoku Struggle. You have the heavy mythological influence, even more than in Olympia Soirée, I'd say. So you will have to consult the in-game dictionary a lot, or even take your time to look up all the mythological references, as most of them also exist outside the game. And you also have the variety of side characters similar to Nil Admirari no Tenbin, who all have their own goals and hidden motives. You get to know bit by bit in the course of the character routes, until you can make sense of the whole network in the true route, which will probably leave you speechless. And of course you have the extremely well-paced and relatable love development, which is accompanied by extremely steamy scenes, and scenes which will make you scream and your heart skip a beat. And lastly, you have a variety of moral topics woven into the story. What is right or wrong? What does it mean to live a human life? Can and should I judge a character by their deeds? Is there even good and evil? This game might have you reflect on your own life, reconsidering what is right and wrong. Quite similar to Nil Admirari no Tenbin in this regard, which you should definitely play if you like Tengoku Struggle. The main difference to Olympia Soirée is there are fewer flashbacks.